Like, if you do not want to have kids, it is okay. Have you ever heard of some of your friends or yourself even say, I do not want kids? Well, millions of people right now, millions of women actually, are deciding they do not want kids. And the reasons might actually shock you, or for some of you it might be like, that makes sense, I never wanted kids either, or I don't want kids right now. Today, that's what we're talking about, because I am a young mother, and when I became a young mother, I was saying to my friends, you know what, I cannot wait until you have kids. And what I was met with was actually surprising. Many people do not want kids. So today, this is what we are exploring. So before we get started, let's just talk about the stats and what is happening in our world right now in America and Canada. It's kind of shocking because in 2014, 3 out of 4 people who were in their 20s, they didn't have kids. So that is 75%. Now we fast forward 10 years later to 2024, and it's 9 out of 10 people in their 20s who do not have kids. That's 90%. From 75% all the way jump to 90% who do not want to have kids. And like I said, this is not just in the United States of America. It's happening also in Canada. In Canada, there is a whole fact about the stat that I came across, and it shocked me, that 1/3 of adults who are 50 and under, they don't want kids in Canada. And in that article, they were talking about infertility and other things that were affecting our birth rates. And they were actually saying that these birth rates, it looks like it's going up at some point. At some point, they thought it was going up because there was a mass immigration coming from other countries. But those countries, those people have lots of kids. So then it was kind of skewing the numbers. Now, because immigration has been paused, we're seeing a huge dramatic change in spiral down. Yeah. Unbelievable. Or the word that I like to use these days is diabolical.
Yeah, boy.
So let's explore why this is happening. I am not happy to ruff up any feathers or to get anyone mad or whatever it might be. I just want to talk about why it is, because I was exploring it. I saw that it's happening a lot in my generation, and I started exploring it, and I thought I need to talk about this. I had to get closer. So just in Canada, infertility rates have actually gone up from 1.25% to now 2.5%. And that is actually going to affect our population levels, not right now, but later on in the future. And it's going to affect people like us because we won't have people taking care of us when we are kind of like the baby boomer stage. When we were in our 60s and 70s and 80s, we're going to have a really terrible time. So this is not just a small shift, guys. This is like an earthquake happening. There is a major shift happening right now. So I have to distinguish that there is 2 groups here and 2 camps. And I want to make it really clear that today we're not talking about the other camp that I don't want to talk about. I want to talk about these other groups. So the first group that today we're not talking about, we're not talking about people who are not able to conceive, people who do not have a partner, and people who do not afford it. Those 3 people put in one camp. We're not talking about them, because if you don't have a partner or someone that you're in love with, how can you have a kid? You can't until you find that partner, number 1. Number 2, if you cannot afford it and you can only afford to get yourself to live, then you cannot afford having a child. So you also don't count in this camp. And then if you're not able to actually bear children, then, this is the people that are on the one side of the camp. I'm talking about the people who have a partner and they're happy with where they are at, but they just do not want kids. Okay? Capiche? Capiche. What language is that? Capiche? Capiche. Is it Portuguese? I don't know. I just grew up saying it. So after exploring the internet, I found out that there is a term called matrescence. It is a scientific term that they use after a woman has gone through birth and being a mother. And it is actually a term that it's almost like second puberty. When you look at it, the body prepares you to be a mother, and overnight you become a mom, but there has been all this preparing that happens. And it says that matrescence, it's like pretty much how you felt after having your first period, or those times where everything was kind of like annoying and you were not understanding what's happening in your body. The same second puberty happens at motherhood, where literally it's like an identity shift all over again, and your brain is adjusting to housing a baby and taking care of a baby. Number one. Number two, you're also encountering all these social shifts that are happening. Like your job will be reduced, or you decide not to go back to work, or some people you actually cannot go back to work. Number two is you are met with all this change because your friends don't have kids. So now you have to change your friendship and find new friend groups. Does that sound like puberty? Yeah. Yeah. And then you are having to figure out yourself all over again. So there's this sense of like trying to identify yourself again. And I've heard that even some people, they feel like I've heard from Reddit, when I was reading in Reddit, the threads, that people feel like that they are losing themselves. So this fact number one is, I feel like people who say that they do not want kids, they look at their friends, they look at their older sisters who have gone through this, and they're like, I will not be subscribing to this. This is not the life that I want. First of all, adulting was hard enough. Being able to pay your own bills and moving out and figuring all this out, and with the economy these days. And then they say, on top of that, you're putting kids on top of that. I am just learning to live with myself and to be a responsible adult. Now that I've just kind of figured out, now I have to figure out kids. And now that I just figured out my partner, or still am figuring them out, and now you're telling me to have kids, to be able to experience another culture shock. No. So people are like, no, I don't want kids, and I don't want kids. And can we blame them though? I don't think so. I think in today's world is actually more freeing, because if you say you don't want kids, there isn't as much judgment that is passed around as compared to, let's say, people in their 80s or in their 70s. If a woman said, I don't want kids in their 40s, you better believe that everyone in the neighborhood will be talking about you. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so the politics has just gotten ugly about this very topic. First, you have the left-leaning, or to you, this will be left, depending on how the camera is. The left-leaning side, they're just saying, okay, when we say mothers should give birth to children, this is going back old-fashioned ways, and we're now calling mothers baby-making machines, kind of like how things were back way then. And they're saying, okay, no, let's not put the pressure on women to have children, and we're just trying to have children instead of it being a loving family. We're taking it to be to boost the economy, if that makes sense. So, but then the right side is saying, yeah, it is for the economy, because decrease in children is a decrease in our future workers, a decrease in our taxpayers, and a decrease in the economy. And they're saying, what is so wrong about that? And then you actually see now other governments who are more on the right side changing initiatives so that incentivize women and families to have more kids. Like, I think this the last term that Trump got re-elected, I literally remember hearing something like that. Children born after a certain time, there was going to be more initiatives for them. There's another country, I want to say Norway, but I don't know if it's Norway. I have to research it again and put it on the screen as we're editing. Is the more children a woman gets, the more taxes they get off. I think it's almost like if they have 4 kids, it's almost like they don't have to pay taxes. I have to double check that, which country that is. Maybe let me just do it now. ChatGPT, of course. Let's see. Which country gives you more incentivizing if you have more children? Like after having 4 kids, it will say you do not pay any taxes. So Hungary is one of them. Poland, France, Sweden, Russia. What? Okay, so like I was saying, There's actually so many countries. I didn't know which one that I had heard of this. So in Hungary, they say they're the most friendly family tax systems in Europe, apparently. So I didn't know. I think it was actually Hungary that I was hearing about this. Mothers with 2 or more children are receiving expanded lifetime in income tax exemptions, and mothers with 4 or more children have received a lifetime exemption for personal income taxes on employment income. Eligibility depends on the law and the type of income. Wow. So if you have 4 kids, that's a lifetime. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being a nurse and all that money that you see, the one that the gross income just coming to your pocket because you have 4 kids or more? If that happened in Canada, all of us are having more. I have 4 kids. And then Poland, they are the next one. They incentivize large families. So parents with 4 kids or more can qualify for income tax exemptions up to a specified annual income threshold rather than paying no tax on all income. France has the same. Sweden has the same. Russia has the same. All different, of course, not the same, but they incentivize having more children. And I wonder, I know Russia is definitely right-leaning. Sweden, I don't know if it's right-leaning at all. Hi.
Mommy,
Yeah.
what?
So I don't know if our governments are helping or defeating us from having children. And definitely in Canada, the economy, people will always say, I cannot afford it. And I've heard from other countries that, I think it was China, that there was a time they were encouraged to only have 2 children, right? And then things changed. Now they're being encouraged to have more children, but because they're so used to providing for that one kid and that one kid having everything, going to piano lessons and swimming lessons and karate and, tutoring, like this one kid is packed and getting all these resources. Now to have 2 or 3 or 4 more, that's like all these resources now have to be shared among all the kids. And so they're finding that people are not having more kids because of that phenomena. They were used to providing so much for that one kid. Now they cannot fathom thinking about providing for more kids. My take is that I think support is a huge thing. Women are realizing that having children is a lot of work, and they're realizing that maybe I'm not able to get the help that I need. Like for instance, when I was born, my grandmother was already retired. So she was more able to come and help with me getting raised up. Now these days, our mothers are not even close to retirement, or maybe they have a couple more years in retirement. Like when I was 20, my mom was not ready to retire yet. So if I was to start having kids then, she was not ready to retire. Even right now, she's not retired. She's almost retired, but I also couldn't wait for her. So I needed to figure out support. Now, I am so lucky that my mother-in-law lives so close to me. So she has been my support system, and my mom here and there when she comes. But having community is so big. And we live now in a world where even with dating, you cannot just find a man like 2 seconds ago. Walking in the streets, you cannot find someone. Things have turned more into an online world. And as much as we are more connected, the kids can see their grandmother through FaceTime just like that. They're not as available as they used to be before. So this is another big, I think governments are helping, society is helping in some ways, but I think that support piece is definitely huge. It's very important and crucial to this transition of being a mom. So my take is that even though this whole motherhood thing was brutal and a culture shift in change and very painful for me, especially the first time around, it was worth it. Now that I look back, I really think that it was worth it, and I would do it again. I wish I could do it again with more wisdom. That's why I am inserting these wisdom on these videos, because I want someone to come into it and say, it's not about losing yourself. It's that you're going to have to shift and you have to build yourself up again. It will make you stronger. almost shifts for me. Things were like, I don't want to use the word selfish, but it was more honor focused. Now that I have kids, I have to think of my babies. I prefer that better. Now, 4 years ago, I wouldn't say that. I would say no. Why wouldn't I wake up and just shower and not put my eyeshadow? I used to put eyeshadow every day, guys. That's how much time I had. And I used to make jewelry all the time. Now, it's not like that anymore, because I have these precious little babies and I love them so much, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So for those people or friends, or maybe you're watching this and you're like, every time I'm asked, do I want kids, I cringe and I don't want to even face this topic, I would encourage you to explore on that. Why is that you do not want to have kids? So the first that we talked about was support. I don't want anyone to feel shamed that they don't want kids. There is a reason why you do not want kids. You just have to explore it and know it really well for yourself. Like, for instance, people who were born with big families. So you were one of 10 or one of 8. I've heard it a lot from the women's side of the story that they say they don't want kids. And that is because they saw their mother doing the brunt of the work. And they're like, I do not want that. If that's what motherhood is, I don't want it. So that makes sense to me when I look at that. For me, though, my story is a bit different because it was just my brother and I. And then after a series of events, my father passing, my mom migrating to another country, I had to live with my cousins. For all of that 6 years, which was the big chunk of my childhood, was the 6 of us. And then at some point there was 7 and then 8 of us. And we're all living together. And I look back and I think I liked living in a big family. I liked just being my brother too, but I loved just the feeling, the manyness, how we were so many. I loved that part. In Zimbabwe, there would be no electricity for a while, and we would always find things to do. Like, we never ran out of things to do. And even up to this day, I know, like, if I need to talk about a specific topic, I call Memory. If I need to talk about something else, I call Victor, I call Amanda, I have people that I can lean into, and it's all because of that childhood. So for me, I think, is it good to have many children, and that those first kids, they always feel like, they had to babysit a lot. They had to do the brunt of the work. I don't know how I feel about that having many kids, the ones who are older end up being babysitters and being the adults, the younger adults in that family. I don't agree with that approach. Like, just have more kids and the first ones will take care of the younger ones. That's a lot to put on a kid because you're not even doing it yourself. So I don't know how I feel about that. But do I agree that having more kids is a good thing? Yeah, it's a very good thing to me. Now, to someone else, let's say, for example, you are a free spirited person. You want to go to Chicago tomorrow. Next week, you're going to another place and you are just, free spirited and you don't like structure. Having a kid is not a good thing for you. It's going to be actually detrimental for the society if that person has a kid. And that person could actually think about having adoption, because if they want to stay with that free spirit, I'm not saying that your kid cannot come hiking with you and travel with you, but when you're traveling and you're with a kid, it's just different. It's just different. So I have seen that aunties and uncles without children, they literally make the best aunties and uncles ever. And I look at them and I think, wow, you would be such a good mother. But when we think about it, it's, when you do not have kids, you have all this freedom that just is warranted to you. And this freedom can be so freeing. But after a while, I feel like sometimes I've heard that freedom can also be a prison, because as people, we need some sense of structure. So some people who decide to not have children, they end up, getting their purpose from work or getting their purpose from something else or a hobby or being entrepreneurial. Is it so bad if they decide not to have children? I think our society needs to continue to empower people in the areas that they want to thrive in. Like, if you do not want to have kids, it is okay to not have kids. Do not have kids because you want someone taking care of you later on in life. At some point when I see it, having children and no children, I look at it as you can take it selfishly on both sides. On the side of having children, you could say, you know what, I want someone to take care of me one day, so I'm going to have children. But is it fair to put that on our children to end up one day being a burden to our children? The way I see it is, yes, I'm having children. I would love one day for my children to come on Christmases and holidays. That's something that I really want to do. And I want to be able to take care of their kids if they decide to have their own kids one day. I hope that they do, because I want to be a grandmother. I want to experience that. My mom has told me that being a grandmother was probably better than being a mom. So I want to experience that. But should someone who doesn't want to have kids because they think that I want them to take care of me later? I want them to come to the nursing home and visit me later? So in closing, I think that kind of sums it up. If someone does not want to bear children, we should not make them feel odd or make them feel pressured that they don't want to have children. It was a huge learning gap for me. I just assumed that everyone wanted to have children one day. And through conversation, of course, some people don't have partners, some people cannot afford, some people they're dealing with infertility issues. That camp, we understand. We're not even including them in this video. But it's for those people who are like, I can't have children right now. I have the support system, but I just don't want to have children or never wanted to have children. I'm wondering if there is anything for those people who do not want to have children. What is the draw to that? If there's anything that maybe that I have not covered in this video, please let us know, because we all want to learn from each other. Yeah. All this to say is that my mind, I literally had to have a paradigm shift, because I just assumed that everyone wanted to have children. But it's such a free world, because even God gives us free will. So if you do not want to have children or do not want to marry, it's not a bad thing at all. It's just, I think we, as a society, more people are shifting this way, shifting all the way to the left or shifting all the way to the right. And I wonder if later on, because as women, we have a clock. So if we are deciding we don't want to have children, later on when we decide we want children and maybe it's a little bit late or it's very difficult, what are we going to do? Well, the remedy is always adoption. You can always adopt and have children. There's so many kids in different countries who are in poverty, and you could be able to provide for those people. So anyways, I hope you guys have a good day today, and please put your thoughts down in the comments. I had such a great time making this video. It makes me ponder. It makes me really think about where my head space is at. But I cannot wait to have conversations with my friends, because through all this reading Reddit, reading the internet, I really changed my mind about certain things. So I hope you have a good day and have a good one.